The police the same way. They put their club upside your head and then turn around and accuse you of attacking them. Every case of police brutality against a Negro follows the same pattern. They attack you, bust you all upside your mouth, and then take you to court and charge you with assault. What kind of democracy is that? What kind of freedom is that? What kind of social or political system is it when a black man has no voice in court, has nothing on his side other than what the white man chooses to give him? My brothers and sisters, we have to put a stop to this, and it will never be stopped until we stop it ourselves. They attack the victim.
Hello, welcome back to the channel. So since we have all of this C-19 relief, apparently 1.9 billion has been set aside for farmers of color. First, let that sink in. One, black farmers in America have been marginalized at the behest of the U.S. government. The USDA has long since used all type of redlining tactics in order to ensure farmers could not get loans for equipment, etc. Even when John Boyd Jr. was going up against Monsanto about the pesticides they were using that was causing cancer. So there's nothing new here. This is the same game, different name. And we as melanated people have to be vigilant in everything we do. So Relief for Farmers of Color Act is supposed to help them. If you're not aware, John Boyd Jr. filed a lawsuit against the USDA and won. Now, of course, it took him quite a long time. He won billions of dollars to help out farmers. Excuse me. And those farmers at the time end up getting something like $62,000 US for farm aid. So they've been marginalized. They get their lands encroached on. And as he said, this is like the first job ever. And so there's going to be some treachery. Keep your third eye open. Understand what is going on with the USDA and the new person that they're putting in charge to run this department. It likely will not be in our favor.
Tom Vilsack will face tough questions today as he begins his confirmation process to reprise his role as Secretary of Agriculture. Vilsack served under the Obama administration for 8 years. This time around, he faces criticism from black farmers and advocates for not doing enough to address racism in farming. Black-owned farms are rapidly decreasing across the country. Black farmers accounted for more than 14% of all U.S. farmers in 1920. By 2017, that number dropped to less than 2%. Farmers say decades of systemic racism has stopped them from being able to successfully grow and keep their farms. 3 months ago, several senators introduced the Justice for Black Farms Act, aimed at overturning discriminatory practices implemented by the Agriculture Department. The bill includes a commission to study the legacy of discrimination against black farmers and protections for land ownership. Joining me now is founder and president of the Black Farmers Association, John Boyd Jr. John, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. Great to have you with us. Explain a little bit, I know in general terms, how racism against black farmers has impacted their ability to build generational wealth through their land.
Well, basically, for a very, very long time, black farmers have been shut out of USDA farm lending programs, the subsidy programs, and there has been a long historic pattern of discrimination from USDA as it relates to black farmers. We haven't been able to get loans. It took 387 days to process a black farmer's loan application, less than 30 days to process a white farm loan application. And these are some very, very disparate figures. There's been study after study, commission after commission, Congress after Congress that have found that black farmers have been discriminated against, but there has not been a real fix to the issue. And that's why we were so hopeful that with this new president that some of these things will change, because we've been totally shut out of the last administration. Former Secretary Sonny Perdue, I've met with every agriculture secretary since the Carter administration. And my meeting with the former Secretary Sonny Perdue was the worst meeting I've ever had with a sitting agriculture secretary. So we're looking for better days.
And I want to get to your feelings on Tom Vilsack in just a moment, but I do want to talk a little bit about the fact that this is a fight that you've been in for the long haul. I mean, you won the first discrimination lawsuit against the USDA over 20 years ago. Tell us what you specifically saw in your community that pushed you to file that lawsuit, and have you seen anything change in the 2 decades since you won?
Yes, it took me 30 days to win the lawsuit, and it's still the largest settlement in history for black people, totaling in 2 settlements for $2.5 billion, where roughly altogether 40,000 black farmers received $50,000 and $12,500 for the taxes. So the settlement was very historic in nature, but it took too long. And thank God I ran into a young senator in the hallway, then Senator Barack Obama, who later became president, who helped sponsor my bill in the Senate that passed into law called the Claims Remedy Act of 2010. That allowed for $1.25 billion for longstanding discrimination, where I myself faced discrimination by the Department of Agriculture, where I was spat on by a farm loan officer. I was called the N-word by the highest official at Farm Service Agency here in the United States. I had my application tore up and threw in a trash can, and was deterred from applying for federal assistance and federal loans. So there's a long-standing pattern and history of discrimination against black farmers. And I want to remind people, it's the oldest occupation in history for black people in the United States is farming, where now at the turn of the century, we owned over 1 million. There's 1 million black farmers, and we owned over 20 million acres of land here in the United States. And we're down to roughly 4.5 million acres and about 45,000 black farmers that are left still plowing the soil and tilling the fields, and we've had a tough road to hoe.
And we want to thank you so much for sharing your important story with us. How does the Justice for Black Farmers Act begin to rectify some of these injustices, and what more needs to be done?
Well, I'd like to thank Senator Booker and others for sponsoring the bill and listening to my pleas and others. It addresses the long-standing issue of land loss. That's the first thing it addresses, and it also provides more of accountability by the United States Department of Agriculture. It calls for inclusion in farm programs, for example, where today black farmers are virtually absent from the U.S. Farm Subsidy Program. Those were all of the payments that former President Trump touted would go out to farmers swiftly and equally. Very few, a handful, went out to our nation's black farmers. So that bill addresses some of the long-standing issues, and I know that the new chairman in the House, Chairman Scott, is looking at hosting a very historic hearing in the coming weeks. So we're excited about the possibilities that this new administration is bringing, and in this new Congress, the House and Senate.
And
looking forward to working with leaders there to make a change.
That's right. And speaking of the new administration, you mentioned your negative experiences with Sonny Perdue. As you know, President Biden has chosen Tom Vilsack to lead the Agriculture Department. What do you make of that choice, and what are you looking to see from Vilsack and the Biden administration specifically in these next 4 years?
Well, Secretary Vilsack wasn't my first pick. For certain, and I was a little concerned when they first selected the former secretary to come back to the Ag Department, and he was a little slow in helping me campaign in the House and Senate for the Claims Remedy Act of 2010. But I do think he's going to get confirmed, and hopefully he will change and bring to the forefront the issues of facing black farmers. So I've had a few lengthy conversations with Secretary Vilsack, and he says he wants to do the right thing, and I urged him to appoint more blacks that want to do the right thing, and Hispanics and women and Native Americans to secretaries and undersecretaries and deputies. That's the way you bring real change, to put those type of persons in place that can help execute the right policies that will help black farmers and other small farmers.
Absolutely. Everything you say makes so much sense. Thank you, John Boyd Jr., for joining us. We really appreciate your...
It doesn't matter what industry persons of melanated descent are in. Since we were allegedly freed from slavery, we have always bore the brunt of U.S. government infractions using discrimination tactics against us. It has never been solved, and all they do, including Republicans and Democrats, is add more layers of legislature to ensure they keep their own status quo. Think of this. There is a reason why Nancy Pelosi will never put reparations on the House floor to be voted on. So it doesn't matter whether you're a black farmer, you are a black man trying to have a car dealership, you are a black man trying to have manufacturing, you are going to continue to feel the brunt of the United States government. It is what it is. Thank you. Subscribe, like, comment.